Hey gang, and welcome back to Film Director Reacts, and today we are doing Red Velvet's Irene, episode 2, called Irene, so I guess it's pretty obvious. And again, guys, thank you for all your likes and comments. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. Who knew? That's amazing. I didn't even ask for subscribers, so I appreciate it. Maybe I should start asking. If you're out there, please subscribe. So anyways, let's check this out. And, oh, by the way, it's time when I remind you, please, if there's something that you want to see, check out the playlist. I know I get a lot of requests. Some of it is already in the playlist, so check those out. And action. Irene. So I know I asked before people, I said like, I wonder if this is real, and a lot of you said that this is a harbor, which is beautiful. I was actually referring to the color of the sky. I wondered if that was real or if they had done that in post-production. Because it's just this really beautiful pink color. It almost doesn't seem real. Okay, so the two of her? Yep. So this is actually a pretty easy effect to do, simple anyways in terms of what you do, but the process, but the way you execute it can be very complicated. Let's see how much of this is like this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. Let's check this out though. It's called cloning. It's called cloning, in case you didn't hear me say that over the music. Yeah, so that was a really obvious one. So what they did here is they shot Irene here, and what they're gonna do is it's on a jib. The jib arm swings around and then tilts. It doesn't tilt this way, it tilts this way opposite. So comes here, tilts up, and they just cut it, like where you don't see her, like somewhere here. Okay, so somewhere around here is where they cut the film, and cut it to her standing here. So that's actually 2 shots, and they just stitched together somewhere in the middle. So it's very common. Like, if you've seen directors like in Rutu, or sometimes, you know, in True Detective Season 1, there was an episode where they had one really long shot, which took 15 minutes. Those shots aren't actually that long. They just go over something where they can actually cut it sort of seamlessly where you don't notice it. So that's 2 shots stitched together somewhere over the water where they just kind of really stitched together well. So with this stuff, this is, what they're using here is they're using several elements. It's not just one thing they're doing. They're stitching together many different techniques with this, which is actually just beautiful. They did an amazing job. So one of the techniques they're doing here is cloning again. Besides, you can put 2 people in one scene. Typically, you want to keep the camera very stationary. So what you do is you film like Irene here dancing, and then you film Irene here dancing. And then what you do, so these are, you know, she danced it twice, obviously. And if it was stationary, what you do is you keep your camera in one place and she dances once, and then you keep the camera in the same place and she dances again, and you just put them on top of each other and you filter through, and you like, you know, adjust the opacity, put a filter, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty easy. When it comes to actually moving shots like this, it becomes much more complicated because you need the exact same shot because you're matching 2 layers on top of each other. So if the background looked different, it wouldn't match. In order to do this, you need to use programs like a programmable jib, which is moving in the same way. So as an example, so the tilt here, that might have been done in post. I'll explain in a second. So that movement there wasn't done in post. I mean, that movement there was what we talked about earlier, where she goes off screen. And then right in here, where you don't see anyone, this is where they cut. And then you see her there. So that's not an example. So let's go a little bit more. So this shot where they're moving like this, that is actually a jib shot. You know, it's actually, there's a shot that's like this. In order to take this shot, what they have to do is they have to program it so it moves the exact same way at the exact same time and take the same shot twice once with her in this position and once with her in that position. The key is that shot has to be moving the exact same way both times in order to superimpose the background correctly. You do that with programming, and what they're doing is they're taking that and then they're stitching together other shots with that. So it's one movement they're doing, and then they're probably stitching together another movement, so they're combining a lot of elements together to make it look like one continuous shot, which it isn't. And this right here is probably all green screen at this point because the lighting is a little bit off. Yeah, the light, see there's little, so there should be top lighting here from the back, getting from the back, and there's a little on her shoulder, but the lighting does look a little off, so I think that this looks a lot like green screen. Yeah, so see she's front lit here, like there's a light right there, but that light is not hitting her there. And yeah, that looks really green screen because the light is really off on the face. So you can even just tell. You see how the light's off? It even kind of looks a little fuzzy, especially right there around her hair. That doesn't look, yeah, it's all keyed out. Didn't look fuzzy, it was just a very hard cut. It's very hard to get that exact. So again, these are all just, and I want to talk a little bit more about what they did to cover this up. Beautiful. Beautifully technically. So let's go back, check it out guys. So what I want you to see here is just the combination of techniques. So yeah, they crossed over one place, you know, and then cut to somewhere else, so that's where the cut was. They also used a technique where they used a moving jib or a dolly, but it was programmed so that it moved the exact same way twice. And that way that when she danced and the camera moved, it worked that way both times so it could be superimposed correctly, but they did that many times incrementally, and then they stitched those together, and that's how that worked. Also, there's what they did to kind of cover it up and create more. So see all this moving in and out, hold on a sec here. See, that's beautiful work. I mean, so that, I believe, so that is just a programmed move, and then they did that shot twice. So you see those push-ins and push-outs? Oh, did you see that cut there? See that cut there? Yeah, that was really sloppy, wow. Okay, you guys saw that, right? So what they're doing is like they're creating energy also by and kind of covering up like the way that those are that these are stitched together with sort of a very smooth camera. In post-production, you can create sort of a shaky movement, and somebody else is also pushing in and pulling out really quickly in post-production. That wasn't done in camera while shooting this because that would mess up the ability to clone in the way these are cloned. So what they did is somebody very lovingly and painstakingly in post-production created sort of a jittery effect and also pushing in and out really quickly once these are already cloned together. And it must have been tough to take this because, you know, the sky that looks like this is, you only have that for like 20 minutes. And so this guy had to be filmed really quickly, and these clouds constantly move. And so it must have been really difficult. Cutaway, yeah. So they're stitching together elements. So like I said, there's the cloning, and then there's the stitching right here. There's no more cloning, and now they're cutting and then coming back to her there. So they're combining many different elements together. And the same thing when they pushed in here there, that's another place they cut. So they're looking for places to cut away. They're like, so as your filmmaker, you're looking at places where you can cut, and you're like, oh, we'll take this shot. We're taking this shot. Where can we cut the shot? And so specifically there's a place to cut the shot. That movement there, I don't think is in camera. I think that is, again, in post-production that somebody actually, so what they could have done is they could have shot it a little bit wider and then punched in a little bit and made that effect in post-production by looking like it's moving, because that would have been very difficult to match with the cloning, because you need something very smooth because of the background. That is, that's in camera. It's a jib tilt, but that wasn't in camera. Well, they might have done it slow. That was effect afterwards, I think. And there, you see where you can cut again. So you're always looking for where you can cut. And there you can cut. So, great job. This is an amazing blend of different techniques that they used. They really stitched together a lot of techniques very seamlessly, and then they created a way to kind of mask those techniques by creating a lot of jitteriness in the camera. So it was a way of distraction. It also created, they created energy, but also distracted you from maybe the way that the overlays might have looked when they did it. So very, very well done. Very painstaking, especially in the post-production process after they had already masked everything and composited it and cloned everything together, to go in and add all the jitteriness and all the quick push-ins and push-outs and all that stuff. It took a lot of time to do that. Turned out really, really well. It was very, very creative. Haven't really seen a lot of cloning recently, and they did a just fantastic job doing it. So Irene, good job, although I don't know if it was Irene who did it. Irene's team, good freaking job. And for, it's called Irene, the song called Irene. It's called Irene? Is that what she sang in the chorus? I'm gonna call my channel Paul now. What do you think of that? Anyways, guys, for this episode, that's a wrap.